to Troy's Outdoor Pursuits and Projects. If you're watching this video, you've probably watched my series, Just Another Duck Boat Build, where I build this boat. If you haven't watched that series and you like this video, I strongly suggest you watch it. I think you get a lot out of it. In this video, we're going to be doing some improvements and modifications to the boat to make it out to what I wanted it to be from the beginning. Although I don't have a great memory, I do have a list. So we'll be adding a keel to the bottom of the boat. We'll be modifying an electric trolling motor specifically for this boat with pole steering and pulse width modulated remote control. We'll be adding a lithium battery, floor padding, a fishing chair, backrest, a camo cover, and PFD storage. This is kind of the short list. We may add more or less in this video or at a later date. In the meantime, I had questions from a subscriber about the weight of the hull as is, so let's drop it on the scale real quick before we get going on the build. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a keel to the bottom of the boat. This boat's a flat bottom boat, so it really has no tracking ability. A keel is going to improve its tracking, especially while paddling. I've already marked the center line of the boat and I've taped it off. I'm going to rough it up with some really good sandpaper, rough sandpaper, and then I'll epoxy a keel to the boat. Now, the material I'm going to use for the keel is this white oak. White oak is a really good boat building material. It's very tough, it's very strong, and it's rot resistant. Unfortunately, it's also very heavy, but it's what I have and it's what I'm going to use. An alternative would be to use polyfoam trim and then glass over the top of it, which is a trick that my friend Skip showed me. I think it's a great idea, but I'd have to run to town and spend 20 bucks on polyfoam trim. So we're going to use the white oak. This piece is too short, so I'll have to rip it into a couple 3/4 inch strips, and then I'll scarf those together before I shape it and attach it to the bottom of the boat. Now notice I got a big curve here. I'm going to try steam bending for the first time and hope that I can make this curve and bring the keel all the way to the bow of the boat. Now I just mixed up some epoxy, and now I'm heating up the wood. That'll help it soak in more epoxy. I'm going to add a little colloidal silica to help fill the gaps. Okay, let's take keel strip up and have a look at it. Wax paper. So I just need to take these bumps off. Perfect. Okay, next I'm getting ready for steam bedding. I've got this piece of ABS pipe. It's got a cap on the end of it and it's filled with 3 feet of water, and I've got my keel strip setting in it. It'll be sitting in it overnight before I steam it tomorrow and try to bend it. What I've got here is my keel strip that's been soaking overnight in water from this point, from the 3 foot mark down, because I want to bend this section to mount the bow of the boat. What I've got here is another piece of ABS pipe, and I got my tea kettle down here and a propane stove with a 1 pound propane bottle that I refilled several times. And I've got a C-clamp on here, I've got some screws on the end to keep it from touching the sides of the pipe. I'm going to slide it down the ABS pipe. You can see the steam come out. I got some old underwear here. To kind of plug up the steam. I'm going to let that sit for about an hour and a half, and after it's been steamed for an hour and a half and the temperature is up around a couple hundred degrees, I'm going to put it on a form that I'll show you and we'll try to bend it. Okay guys, I got my part here. It's all been steamed. Got up close to a couple hundred degrees. Hopefully I got all the clamps and stuff that I need. I've got some backing. The form I built ahead of time. I traced the bottom of the boat to get that, and oh wow, piece of cake. I don't know if you could see that, but wow, I'm impressed. This is pretty cool. I'm just amazed at how easily that bent. I could see myself doing steam bending more in the future for other projects. I could bend this a lot more if I wanted to. All right, I'm going to break this loose and I'll show you what it looks like. Hope I don't break any clamps off, but it was actually pretty easy. I'll let this dry for a few days, and then I got to bend the other end because I got a kind of a double-ended boat, so I'll be doing another bend. All right, there's one more step done. Okay, I got to go to work this morning, so real quick, it's I want to pull this keel off the form. Look at that. Pretty slick. Let's check to see how it fits on the boat itself. Oh, I could have overbent it a little more, but that's like it takes about a pound of force to hold down the bow end. Okay, and now I just wanted to show you how much off I am. It's not that much. It's really not. But it does require clamping or screws. An option would be to screw this down to the hull, which would not be a bad option, but I choose not to. Okay guys, I'm getting ready to do the glue up on this keel strip. And I just wanted to show you something before I start. Now I steam bent my keel at both ends and it didn't come out perfect. I could have bent it a little more because there was some spring back. So I've got to use a little bit of tension to hold it down onto the whole bottom of the hull. So I just wanted to let you know, if you're ever going to do anything like this, you need to get your clamping set up figured out before you start your glue. Because if you try to clamp this together while you've got wet glue on your piece, whatever it might be, it's liable to give you a lot of trouble. So I've got 2 clamps and this steel strong back I'll be using to hold my keel in place after I apply the glue. Okay, we're getting ready for the glue up here. Just going to mix up some epoxy. Perfect. All right, this should be more than enough. I'm going to mix this really good. Now I'm not adding any additives to the epoxy initially because I want it to penetrate. I'm going to butter up both surfaces really good and get the epoxy to penetrate. And then once it soaks in a little bit, I'll probably add some colloidal silica to give this a little more body and strength. But I've already preheated this some. I'm going to preheat it some more. I don't normally use a scale because I feel like there's a lot of leeway in proportions using most epoxies, but I have that little scale and I thought I'd use it. Now I've already scarified, I've rough sanded and scarified the mating surface on this keel. It'll just give it a little bit better bond strength. And I'm not going to put very much on here because I just want this to soak in. Doesn't take that much, you just want enough to fill the void between the mating surfaces. And the colloidal silica will help with that. Okay, now we're going to butter up the bottom of the boat. And this center strip has been sanded and roughened and cleaned really well. Okay, I've got a little bit of epoxy left. I hope it's enough. I'm going to pour in quite a bit of this. So this stuff is a white powder. It's supposed to be really bad for you. So try not to breathe it. I hope that's not too much, but I will find out. And I'll just spread this here, a little bit here and a little bit there, and then I'll go over it with a brush. I'll show you what this looks like. It's kind of like peanut butter now. Okay, I'm just going to brush this in now. Now, can you imagine not having your clamping scheme figured out before you came to this point? I'm afraid it would be a bit of a mess. Okay, I'm just going over the joint with a brush. Try to help fill in that crack. Okay, I've had a change of plan. I'm going to go ahead and do the fillet on my keel strip before the epoxy cures. That will mean I won't have to sand between coats. This has got to be pretty thick. So I'm adding some filler and some wood flour. Now I'm going to use the same trick I used on making the bottom of the boat. So I've got these cones I made from shrink wrap material, and just got to fill them up with epoxy and apply it like so. And I'm just smoothing it out with my finger. I'll let it set for a little bit. Okay, now we're going to peel that tape off and leave a nice little fillet behind. Okay guys, this has been cured for 24 hours, so let's peel these clamps off and see what it looks like. Alright, it looks good. It'll just take a little bit of sanding and I'll call it good. Okay guys, I'm calling that good. It looks fine, it'll be fine, but I'm going to tell you, if you do this yourself, use more thickening agent than I did. I didn't use enough and my fillet kind of flattened out. But this isn't going anywhere. I've got good confidence in this, but more filler material, more thickener would be better. But before I flip it over, I'm going to put a little bit of linseed oil on this keel. Okay, next we're going to start on the padding floor. This is just cheap exercise mat. I've used this stuff in my scull boat and I really like it. And I will probably be fastening this to the bottom of the boat with Velcro so that it won't blow out when I'm going down the road, hopefully. But also I can take it out if I need to. Good soft floor. It's easy on the knees, and it also adds flotation if that were ever a necessity. Okay, next step is the motor. What I've got here is a 34-pound thrust water snake. It's a pretty good motor, I guess. I got a really good deal on it. The few things I want to do to it: number one, I want to cut the shaft off because I don't want this sticking up any higher than it needs to be. I'll shorten it as much as I think it is practical. I think I have the prop set at about the right depth. The next thing I want to do is to add pole steering. And pole steering is just a simple concept. You'd have a lever attached to your shaft and you use the pole when you're sitting in the cockpit to steer the boat. Pretty simple concept, and I think that'll be helpful. I won't have to reach back to steer. I also want to add a pulse width modulated remote control for throttle and gear selection. And then the last thing is the tilt mechanism. I want to have a pull cord tilt, so if I slide into shallow water and my prop starts to hit, rather than reaching back and fiddling with this push button, I can just pull a cord and automatically tilt the prop up, get it out of the water, and make my way over the through the shallow water. Now, kind of some other model motors make this a lot simpler, but this one's got this push button, so I'm going to have to devise some kind of clever lever to actuate the push button when I pull on the cord to get it to tilt. Okay, I think it's time to start taking this motor apart so we can see how I'm going to have to modify the wiring. Looks like it's got one screw or bolt through the shaft right here that locks the head into place, so we're going to take that out. Okay, it feels like I'm going to have to take the cover off the control head before I pull the wiring out. So there's just 3 screws that hold this in place. Pretty simple. And there are a lot of different ways to modify these motors, any trolling motor, for remote control. I'm just choosing a method that I already have parts for. So these should all pull off. Maybe not very easily. 1, 2, 3, and more. Now I should be able to start over. Next, I'm going to be working on the shaft lock. mechanism with the pull cord. I've got this piece of scrap 1-inch PVC pipe and some 1.5-inch rectangular tubing. They're going to slide over the top of the shaft like so, and from this, this will be the basis for my lever release assembly. Okay, this is kind of a roughed out piece that fits over the top of the wiring and the shaft and gives me a solid basis to build the lever system from. Okay, here's what I got so far. Okay, starting to get serious here. I'm going to cut the shaft off. I'm only going to cut the shaft off 2 inches because I figure it's better to cut off too little than too much. So here I've got a little protector, a little wire protector I made out of some tubing. And I'll just slip that over the wires and it will protect the wires from the hacksaw. Next I got to pull the power cable off this power head. I could cut the wires and crimp them back together, but I'm going to try to reconfigure this motor in such a manner that if I want to put it back the way it was, I can. If I decide that I'm super happy with it, then I might go ahead and cut the wires and maybe even cut the shaft down a little bit too. For all I know, I may be making changes to this motor in regards to steering or power control. So I want to modify it as little as possible while I'm in these, I'll say experimental phases of the boat. Okay, I'm going to attach this my cord to my new power head, and I wrap tape around this cord grip so that it'll fit tightly in this LB connector. This is called an LB connector, by the way. And then I'm going to use this grommet that or rubber washer that I slit. Slide that over here. Then I'm going to put a zip tie on the cord. All right, cut that off. And that'll keep it from pulling out. Yeah, that'll. So the yellow wire and the blue wires are not used. So I'm going to tape them off. And I'm going to connect the red to the red. I'm going to wrap this. Now, It would be much better if I used butt connectors or even soldered these connections. And I will do that once I decide that this is going to be my permanent configuration. Because spade connectors work, but they're not as reliable as a good solder joint, or even butt connectors for that matter. I'm replacing the screw in the top of the control head with a screw eye, and then I'll run my pull cord through the screw eye, and this should like that. I think that'll work. Moving on to steering, I already had this bracket made up for an older motor. It's simply a piece of flat bar that I drilled a hole in and slipped under this, shaft clamp, and it works fine. Here's the basics of the steering. I originally intended to use a paint pole. I don't like the metal pole, so I had a piece of 1x1 gray pine, and I just kind of chamfered the edges and made kind of an octagon. I'm going to steam bend this so I get a nice arc here. It'll just lay nicer in the boat. All right, now we're going to take this steering pole off the form. I use the same form as I did for the keel. This is pine. Seems pretty solid. I think it'll work out fine. So what I've got here is a battery I've already kind of put together as an experiment for a prior project. I've just got a standard battery box. I got a 50 amp hour, look at this guys, 50 amp hour lithium battery. This thing weighs, I don't remember, 14 pounds. Yeah, it's about 14 pounds I think it was. 50 amp hours of power, approximately the same capacity as a Group 24 100 amp hour lead acid battery, at half the weight and half the size about. Those are approximate. So what I've got here in this box, I've already put it in this box. I don't know if you can see this. This is it's called a pulse width modulator. It's just a basic circuit that allows you to control a DC motor. This pulse width modulator costs, I don't know, I think $12 or something on eBay. It basically switches the power on and off at a very fast rate to vary the speed of the motor. The way that's done is through this cable, and again this was a prior project. This potentiometer and the switch were integrated in the pulse width modulator. I had to remove them and put them in this little box. This was as an experiment. What I'm going to do is disconnect all this, and I'm going to put these controls inside this LB connector, and the LB connector will then fit on the end. I think I'm going to fit it on the end of my steering pole, which will make it really handy to operate the forward reverse and the thrust to the motor with my left hand on the steering pole. Be pretty cool. So I'm not going to show you how I'm going to do all this. I'm just going to do it and then install it, and we'll see how it works. I've got to whittle this down so it'll accept this 3/4 inch coupling. You'll see why when I'm done. I've got this LB connector. It's a 1/2 inch LB connector. I've got a 3/4 inch coupling, and I've modified it a little bit so it will fit on there, and I'll glue it on, and then hopefully, yeah, this will fit inside there, and then I will pin this to the shaft. Okay, now I'm just going to drill a hole to accept the cord that I'll put in it. Something like that. And when I get this adjusted exactly how I want it, and I think that's probably fine, I'll probably just tape this. It's not going anywhere. Well, the steering pole's kind of ugly being octagon shaped, so I'm going to take it down a little bit with my spoke shave and kind of sand it somewhat round. Okay, I just want to show you how this pole hooks up to the steering arms. It's just a metal bracket that's put underneath the bolt on the shaft clamp that came with the motor. But I've just got this linch pin, okay, and then the loop on the end of the pole, steering pole. Super simple. That allows it to me to tilt the motor and for it to pivot without any kinking happening. Pretty much, you know, you can move this thing in any direction you want. I've got the bent pole that I'll be able to operate with my left hand, and I've got shift and throttle right here, right on my feet. Next, I'm going to add PFD storage under the bow, like I talked about. What I'm going to do is use these chocks, these little wooden chocks right here that I've drilled a hole through, and I'm going to glue them in a pattern similar to what I've got right here, but on the underside of the bow, the deck, and then I'll thread elastic through them, just like this is here, so that a life jacket, BFD, can be slid underneath the elastic and held tight up underneath the bow. I did this on my Skull boat and it works out really well. It's super convenient. It's super fast access. It's always there. I don't have to take it out of the boat when I store the boat. And it's really a good system that I think is well worthwhile. Hey guys, here's the underside of the deck of the boat where I've got my chocks on my elastic. My life jacket can slide into there. And yes. Okay guys, next up is a backrest. I want to be able to, if I'm going to use this as a layout blind, a layout boat, I want to be able to lay back. So I need to have some kind of a backrest. So this isn't the first boat I built. I've got some backrest from, this was from my Skull boat, which is super low profile, stealthy. And then this is an older one from an old layout boat, my first layout boat that I built. And I made this for comfort. It's got this headrest that I remember adding and thinking, whoa, this is really cool. Well, we're going to try them both and see how I like them. Now they slide it down until it stops. And then, oh, that's pretty comfy. Of course, I'll be adding padding to both of these, and I'll show you what I'm going to do in that regard. But this is really comfortable, but I feel like I'm up a little higher than I wanted to be if I'm really going to use it as a layout blind. So let's try this other one. Oh yeah. I think you'd agree this is a little lower profile. I probably can make it a little bit longer, probably 6 inches longer, and keep the headrest on it. I think that'll work pretty good. I need to work on some sit-ups though. I'm kind of having a hard time getting up like that. Okay, for my backrest, I've got this, was it 28 by 8 inch pine board milled from gray pine on my own property. Gonna keep it simple, and I can show you guys a little trick. If you are throwing away your old neoprene waders like most people do, you are wasting valuable and useful material. This neoprene wader material is durable, it's waterproof, resistant, it's easy to sew, you can use it for all kinds of things. And in this case, I'm just going to make a sleeve for my backrest. So I'm just going to cut this out, and I've got a sewing machine in my garage, and I will sew up. Turn it inside out. Fold this end over and staple it on the back. This will be the backrest. Okay, I said I'd be adding a fishing chair. Well, I like to build most everything that I use. It makes it that much more fun. But in this case, my son gave me this chair he found while diving for fishing lures in a local river. And I've already tested it out, and I can tell you right now that this is going to work perfect for fishing, whether I'm trolling or bass fishing or whatever. By the way, if you haven't viewed any other videos on my channel is really a virtual outdoor variety show. I have videos on catfishing, sturgeon fishing, ocean fishing. I'll have future videos on salmon fishing, maybe bass fishing, kokanee fishing. I have hunting videos, bow hunting with traditional archery equipment, bear hunting, varmint calling, coyote hunting, duck hunting, and on and on. It's really a little of everything that I do in my life. If you're interested in variety and a YouTube channel, check out my channel and consider subscribing. It doesn't cost anything and helps me, motivates me to produce more videos like those and this. So thanks for listening to my pitch. Okay, boys and girls, it's getting down to the nitty-gritty. Did you notice how all-inclusive I was? Anyway, I pretty much picked off everything off my checklist except for one thing, and that would be the camouflage cover. The inclination these days is for boats like this to be grassed up with pretty substantial and very effective grass mats or grass covers. And I really like that idea, but they're so bulky and heavy, especially when they're wet, that my inclination is to not go that route. On my scull boat and my hunting kayak, I've simply used camouflage burlap. And for me, it's worked out really well. It's not super durable, but I've got some ideas in that regard. But it's very easy to install. It's lightweight. You don't have to leave it on the boat all the time. You can take it off before you car top the boat. So I'm thinking that that's what I'm going to go with. I've had this for quite a while. I bought it as a replacement for my scull boat burlap, but I'll probably use it on this boat. So I'm going to go with burlap. That's what I'm going to do. But I'm going to try to reinforce it. So I've also got this 3/4 inch webbing, and I thought about making kind of a skeleton, sew up kind of a rigid fabric framework that the burlap can be attached to. Let's just get this unfolded real quick and make sure it is actually enough to cover the boat. I'm sure it is. Yeah, the problem with this burlap is it comes unraveled. And I think by adding the webbing on the edges, that it will prevent it from coming unraveled. So I made this little neoprene bra for the front of the boat from wading material, go guess, and I think I'm going to use that as the basis, the starting point for my webbing that'll stretch along the sides and maybe across the top. This old sewing machine belonged to my late best friend Corey's late father. And I'll tell you what, I have got more use out of this machine. It just amazes me. I keep it in my garage and I use it, I don't know, a couple times a month for something like this. It's just, it's a good old machine. You can sew light leather with it. I sew nylon and webbing, thick webbing all the time. No problems at all. It's just quite an asset for a shop. Dang, bobbin's empty. I hate filling bobbins. So I'm basically just stapling this webbing together. I'm taking it back in the garage and sewing it together. Okay, I've got my webbing skeleton configured, sewed up. So I'm going to stretch this burlap over it. Start stapling the burlap to the webbing, and then I'll sew it in strategic locations and cut out the cockpit. See how it works. This is pretty time consuming, sewing all this webbing to this burlap. But it will make it, I think it'll make it last a lot longer and maybe not stretch out as much. I don't know. I am done sewing the webbing to the burlap. So we're going to see how it fits here. See how easy it is or hard it is to install. I think it's going to be pretty easy to install. I've got these straps in the back that just kind of pull over the corner. All right, that's it. That wasn't too bad. The back is going to be loose because the motor is going to go on there. I can put the motor over the top of this, or I can cut this out. But this is my strap arrangement. I've got this top webbing that goes across the top, and then the one that goes across the side here. And then this is just a bungee that came off, I don't know, a gun strap or something. I'm going to fasten it permanently, but it'll be in here, and then the buckle. Let's see like that. Like this one right here. Anyway, I haven't cut out the cockpit yet, and I haven't decided on what type or if I'm going to make a pop-up blind. I'm sure I will at some point, but I'm thinking for now I'm just going to cut this out and hem it up and leave this open, and maybe after my first hunt or so I'll decide on a pop-up blind. All right, got the cockpit cut out. Just got to hem this up, and while I was at it, I thought I'd make some padded sleeves for my kayak paddle. Once you got it sewn up, you got to turn it inside out. Once it's pulled inside out, just slide it over your like that. From concept to fruition, guys, I am done with the camo cover, and I'm going to give you a little tour of the boat here, just so you get to see what the cover looks like. The cover actually turned out really well. I like it. I like it a lot. I think it'll work out just fine. I'm going to set the camera up here, and I'll give you a little rundown of what I've done. All right, so I've pretty much done everything I said I would do for this video. I've installed the keel on the bottom of the boat so it'll track better. I've installed padding on the floor so it's more comfortable. I've installed the pole steering, which I really like, with the pulse width modulated remote control. I don't know if you can hear that. That's pretty nice setup right there. I've got my backrest for duck hunting, which is going to work out. It's going to work out great. I got my PFD storage. That easy. Stores up under the bow. I really like that feature. I've got my shotgun here where it goes. I've got my kayak paddle right here. I've got my new to me paddle with the padding on it. Stores in the boat quite nicely. Okay, I've got my pole steering with remote throttle control. I've got my, oh, that is so cool. That is slick. That's going to make it so nice for sliding over shallow spots in the marsh. Now, of course, I'll be hunting out of this with my shotgun, and there's a good chance I will be using it as a layout blind, in which case I will probably build some kind of a pop-up cover at some time, but I'll cover that in a separate video because I haven't decided about that yet. But this boat will be just great for that kind of use. Now, I also have entertained, actually, if you guys have watched my videos, you know I've been trying to hunt ducks with a recurve. And I was kind of under the impression that that wouldn't work. But a guy online recently hunted and killed a duck from a layout boat with a longbow. So I don't know, I might give that a try. I'm not sure how that'll work out. Certainly I could from a kneeling position. But I don't know about the sitting position. Anyway, that's a thought. Now, let's take a look at the potential use of this boat for fishing, because I will be using this for fishing. For fishing, this boat's going to be equally as comfortable. I might be trolling, in which case I'll have rod holders on one side or both sides of the boat. I might be motoring forward and casting ahead, but there's something to be said about a forward-mounted trolling motor. And let me show you, for bass fishing in particular, it's a lot easier to control a boat in the wind with the trolling motor mounted into the front of the boat and pulling to you where you want to go, as opposed to trying to swing the back end of the boat in the direction to get the front end of the boat to go where you want to go. So let me show you a really cool little attribute of the setup I've got for bass fishing in particular. Okay, since this is a double-ended boat, if in the case I wanted to bass fish off the back of the boat, I could by simply turning my seat around and turning the steering around, and I've got my control in my left hand to pull the boat, the front of the boat where I want to go so I can cast. And I think that's going to work out really well for bass fishing. Kind of a dual purpose sort of setup. The last thing I forgot to mention is the dreaded DMV registration. Not looking forward to that. Well, I hope you liked this video. I hope it was informative. I hope it kind of completed my build. I'm sorry I wasn't able to do a water test. I will be doing an actual water test, hopefully a hunt in the very near future, where I'll review some of the features of the boat. Might do the pop-up blind cover at some point. Anyway, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't watched my other videos, please consider subscribing and check out the boat build videos that go along with this. Look forward to some future hunt videos. This boat's going to work out really well for me as over time, I tend to not want to paddle a kayak as much as I have in the past. So until the next video, thank you for watching. Have a great duck season, and I hope you watch my next video.